O Satan, you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I should have tape recorded you the whole time. When did you start at TIMA?
I started in 95,
95.
January as a,
And you were there how long?
I resigned at the end of December of 2000, so I was there 6 years, 2.5 as grunt and 3.5 as operator.
Wow.
And then there was a year I was off, and the following November, three supervisors stopped at my house and talked me into being their rep on the board. And that's when the borough went, oh, we can't appoint him. There's too much controversy over him. And Tom Gorman was there. I'm here representing all three supervisors, and we don't care what you want. He is who we want. Appoint him. So there was precedent. I'd said that over and over. They do the appointing, not Avona Borough. And they hired, I got appointed onto the board. I started January of '02, and I got hurt August of '02. They made a rule, if you miss 3 meetings, you're out. So despite my condition, I made it a point to only miss like 1 out of 3. And I always had paperwork dropped off, and I endured until November of '05. And I already had that incident with Jeff Parks, and now everybody was, it was so bad, and I wasn't making the recovery I needed, the speed I needed, and my boy was still in grade school. And I went, nope, you know what? Me and mine over this place. I did what I came to do. I got the plant, I got the litigation, I helped with all these projects. I don't mean I hope you know what I mean by that.
What do you mean by that?
The one to get it done, and I had the backing to get it done, and I did it.
Uh-huh.
Anybody wants to say different is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And the facts prove it. And I've said that over and over.
Well, what was the grant that you got?
We got a $385,000, 25%. What would that be, like 91 grand or so?
Was that to build the plant?
Yes, but there was others that came in groups. I don't remember the exact amounts, but over the 5-year span, with the projects and the plan, it exceeded 1.2. I remember that number. But you can't find it now. A lot of that's not in there.
Huh.
But how did they get done?
Well, if you knew who gave the grant, you could actually get a copy of it.
Yes.
Who gave the grant? DEP?
We had probably 3 or 4 from the DCGBs, the Community Development Block Grants. I didn't say those letters right.
Yeah.
Community Development Block Grants, CDBs. Yeah, we had lots, and they were of varying amounts. Some we matched, some were outright. But the commissioners were, because of Bill Oshel being the president of the Moshannon Valley Council of Governments, he had a lot of influence and a lot of contacts. That's why when I made the statement tonight, no, they endorsed or Penvest wanted the supervisor's endorsement, or it wouldn't have went through.
So the money came from Penvest?
Yes, because 2/3 of the customer base was and always has been the Cary Township people. Mr. Spaid, did you ever look into the paperwork regarding the BCIMA original plant, the sewage plant?
I was on council when that was enacted, an ordinance.
Well, I went through the Cary Township's history in meeting minutes. I spent a day up there too. And they only go back to 1960, by the way, their records. But when you get into the period prior to the sewage plant being built, the amount of paperwork and permitting and communication between the commissioners, representatives, the supervisors, and BCIMA people, because they had just recently purchased Charisma, you know that, or the other way around, BCI bought it from Charisma. And
what was Charisma?
Clearfield County Recreational something or other.
Okay.
Municipal authority, but it was all in one group, and they just wanted rid of the Boy Scout thing. So anyway.
Oh, you mean the water company? The water?
Yeah, originally the BCI started out as buying out Charisma.
Do you know how they got the
You
water?
told me that story. I remember.
Huh?
I said, I know you know about this. That's why I said that. I know you know.
Uh-huh.
So when they were going to incorporate the BCIMA to include the sewage, you take a look in the meeting minutes and the records of the Cary Township, that would not have any way, shape, or form happened unless the supervisors gave their endorsement. It's real clear, real clearly written.
Mm-hmm.
They had to say that, yeah, they felt it was the best interest for the area and their people that they serve. Because if you really look at it and see how spread out the arteries of that sewage system are, I mean, it's extensive. Up over Louville Hill and clean up into, through Utahville and, yeah, I mean, and then the towns and like Lane City, Rosebud, Coalport, Swanktown, Crestview, Ravona, Hoopa. I mean, you just keep adding all these little groups of people. That plant was designed, what was his name? Barry Dunlap, I think. But he was frantic, and he said, I've warned them, told them. And he resigned and went down to Harrisburg and got a good job. Where a plant was designed to take care of what was coming in. That's why your uncle had such problems. He had to time it. He couldn't just show up with that little stink pot and want to dump. He had to coordinate it so that they were on a low surge day.
He didn't dump in the system, to my knowledge.
I saw him 3 times, sir.
Did ya?
We're halfway from the bottom of Crestview Street to the shit plant. There's it just looks like an RV port. And it's for tankers like his to come in and empty.
Oh.
I don't know the payment, how they, I don't know anything about that end of it, but he did it with clearance and approval. But he had to time it with them to catch them on low surge. And they had so much rainwater influence, that didn't help. So he couldn't do it after the rain. I remember him complaining to me one of them evenings, driving down to be in the ditch for him. Yeah, we got along real well, Ron and I.
Yeah. Well, he's the one that pushed to get that water system. There was several entities that wanted to get that water. And
sources, huh?
Yeah, but initially I saw it advertised, and we as a group of people in the borough were discussing the idea of selling shares, and so that we always would own the water. And I hope that BCI will never give in to American Waters.
Oh man.
And sell out.
Yeah, Pennsylvania American, it's a misnomer because it's a German-owned company.
I'm sure they have quite a bit of North America. They have Canada and up in there.
Hey, do you want to make a gentleman's wager?
I don't know what it is.
I call it a shiny nickel as the gentleman's bet, but I was correct to know it's a crisp George Washington $1 bill. But did you watch the news tonight?
No, I haven't.
Recently, okay. Well, I don't know when it should be back on again, but there's sinkholes developing in State College.
Okay.
They're pretty good size. It's amazing, and they're starting to get some attention. The news was there, and anyway, my gentleman's bet up. There have been complaints back when I went to a water seminar, training seminar that the State College Water System hosted. And they had a beautiful plant, and we got a tour of it, and we saw their the distribution map, and got to talk to the operators, and it was a wonderful class, wonderful this and that. But they were, back then, I'll say 98, they were one of the first in the country to start recycling water, gray water, for like car washes and non-drinking purposes.
Yeah, this down here in Coalport, it recycles the water.
The car wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how they keep adding to it, but
well, this when it's just like the gray water is separated from the sewage, and the gray water goes to a place where they can pump it into a special piping, like car washes and factories, this or that could use it. It's to cut down on your raw water intake so that you don't pull as much from the aquifer. State College was building up so much, and they're expanding their water lines all the time to accommodate, and that means that the pumps run longer and you're pulling more water from the aquifer. And my gentleman's bet is, I'll bet you what they'll find is that when you overpump an aquifer, you take the substance that's filling the voids, and when you pour the water, I just picture chunks of gravel, in like a tea plate. Well, you can put a lot of water in that truck yet, that'll fill the void between the gravel. That's an aquifer. And pressure from the headwaters is what forces it, and its speed. And
you mentioned a word in relationship to something with water, waiver or wainer or something like that.
a weir.
A weir. Define weir.
All right. In your mind, picture a yardstick. You're holding it out in front of you with your arms straight out. All right. Now, right in the middle of it at 18-inch, make it into a slight V. Bend it down into a V. Now the water has to come from the one side of that to the other, and as it crosses over that, you have marks on that so that you know, for instance, at the 3-inch mark, you get 1 gallon every half second, or a gallon a second. You can, and then you can do the math, times 60 equals a minute, times 1,440 a day. And then you know how many gallons. That's a weir is what gives you your known.
Okay.
You can't do a formula unless you have your knowns.
All right.
So you got to know what's coming over the weir before you can figure out what you need to release and use and allowed to use. And without that weir, which they do not have, and they don't monitor, so they don't know, how can they, they're just guessing. And like when I said to Mr. Brink, hey, right after the June meeting when he said no water over the reservoir, I said, you better get that well online because you're not allowed to use that reservoir now. And he went, I'll look into that. And he never did. And then the July meeting, they said the same thing. Well, Jeff took me on his side-by-side. We went up to the reservoir, and there was no water coming into the stream. They didn't even have the release valve open. There was no water over the spillway because it was like 8 feet down.
So they don't have a weir up at the reservoir like BCIMA has. They have little weirs on several locations. Mr. Paul Zubich, former president of council in Coalport Borough, took me up to BCIMA's system, and each time he would say, there's another Weir. Okay, it's a place where they had electronic measurements.
Oh, you can, yeah, absolutely. It's easy to, once you make that real shallow V, once you make that, it doesn't matter the shape of the V.
Uh-huh.
As long as you can measure on the downside. And you can pick, any, like a little garden hose that's coming out of the trickle. When you put a 5-gallon bucket there, okay, it takes 5 minutes to fill a 5-gallon bucket. Gee, what's that math tell you?
Right.
So it's a gallon a minute coming out of the hose.
Well, they have electronic eyes.
If you can do it by eye, it's easier to do it with electronics, see?
Yeah.
Because it's more accurate. But if you put incremental marks coming up that V so that you can eyeball it like a level line, plumb bob, horizontal, so you know that water's coming off, again, say at a specific 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. Well, you know if it's 1 inch, you get this much. If it's at the 2 inch mark, that much is going out. It's a known.
Okay.
You just have to, take the time to measure so that you know what your weir is giving you.
So can you recall when the plant in the TIMA facility that was had a grant, when did it come online?
The water plant?
Yeah.
I'm thinking the end of '03, but it was dedicated '04. That's what's on the plaque, '04.
I see. And how long did it take to build?
Better part of 2 years.
2 years. And you were there working with them?
I was on the board.
Wow.
Nope, I got out of there at the end of 2000, and the following year while I was working with Dewey Bratton, I took time off occasionally because I had to go to the lawsuit meetings, and that was a battle. Probably like 4 or 5 meetings I had to go till we won.
What was the lawsuit?
We got the same people that drilled both wells. They gave us, instead of, let me see, it was, the law says it's a 32nd, not less than a half inch. So that would be, 30 seconds thick. That's how thick the casing's supposed to be, a 32nd shy of a half inch. That's pretty thick, the well casing. That's what's required minimum for a public water system in Pennsylvania. It's code. The pipe we were given was barely an 1/8 inch. They didn't grout it sufficiently. They didn't double wall it like the contract and what we paid for. And we were 430 some feet deep, down through 2 major upper aquifers. There was a Pottsville at the top that was like 67 to 125 feet range, and then Allegheny was down around 212, somewhere in there. And then it went all the way down to the Maw Chunk, which we used at 400, and they went to 430 for the well reservoir. And that upper aquifer at 67 feet was higher than 5.0 iron per milligram. That's, you can chew it. And it ate through the casings, and it ran down the inside of the standpipe, and it pulled around the well pump. But at 400-foot fall, it hit oxygen, so it went from ferrous to ferric and started oxidizing and dropping out of solution and turning into like tomato puree around the well pump. And then when the pump kicked on, it got this glut, like this comet with a nasty tail shooting down from the well up there by the reservoir. And when it got to Hemlock and Hopkins Street down there where the hoop up where your property?
Yeah.
Well, depended on where the demand was. If See, Rosebud had the demand. That comet just shot straight out. If the tank had demand, it shot and went left and went up and went into the tank, depending who had the demand on the system, because it didn't go to the tank and then to everybody. It went based, like I just said. And we had complaints just like throw darts. One day it's here, the next day it's there. Nobody could figure out what the problem was. Well, Gary quit. I'm on my own. I'm up there doing everything I'm supposed to, and I'm walking by the well up at the reservoir, and it's real quiet. And I hear, I'm going, what the heck's that? That sounds like a leak, because I was a pretty good leak detector. I put my ear down on top of the well, and I'm hearing, I'm going, it's breached. And it took me a month to convince everybody to come up and look and listen, and they did, and then they got in there with a camera, and oh yeah, it was so hard it pinned the camera against the casing, almost ruined the camera. And then okay, we got to fill it in, can't use it anymore. And I'm going, the same people drilled the one down here. And it was put in the same way. And that's the one all these years later, Mr. Spaid, that they're messing around. In June at the meeting, you check your minutes or your picture show. I'm telling you, you'll see Ryan goes, we need a meter for it because the other one's messed up, and that's going to cost us $2,380-some, and it's not my wheelhouse to install it, so we better pay to have it done. And the boy goes, do it. Well, what did you hear tonight? 2 months later, 60 days later, no backup on a reservoir we're not supposed to be using, and they'll have it online in about a week, 2 weeks. They got to do some tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for considering me using a water buffalo. Thank you. Do you ever drink out of a water buffalo?
No.
You don't want to. Get a metal bucket, filled with water, good water, clean bucket.
Yeah.
Set it out in the sun. Walk out there in about 3 hours and dip a dipper in there and take a good sip. You'll tell me what that bucket's made out of.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just nasty. It is nasty. It's guys I've talked to said it's like my service canteen, taking the last drink out of it at the end of the day. My friend Randy was down in like Oklahoma when it was real hot when he trained, in the plastic canteens. He said it was terrible. I did up north. There was a town lost water from a bad leak, and they brought water buffaloes in, and I left town for a week. I was fortunate I could shut my shop and leave. They couldn't. I come home and visited family. Yep. Yeah, people, what they fail to understand, it's like, they take everything for granted until they hit the light switch and no light comes on, or they turn the water spigot and no water comes out. They have no concept of the reality of the scarcity of good drinking water, how hard it is to treat it, how easy it is to contaminate it, and each year we're getting less of it. Oh, back to State College. They overpumped that aquifer, and that's what made that sinkhole happen. I'll bet you you'll find that out because they're doing investigating on it. And I'll bet that's what happened, because that's what's happening down in Florida.
Causing sinkholes.
Yeah, and what makes it worse down there is they're so near sea level that seawater is infiltrating the voids. They pump out the good water faster than it can be recharged, and seawater's infiltrating and ruining the aquifer. So Florida's going to be a waste dump in no time at all. There's too many people using too much of the water, and it's not getting replenished, and it's going to get contaminated. The seawater's coming in, and they'll have to set up a desalinization plant. And
Take seawater.
Yeah, and and you'll have to be rich to live there.
That's great.
I just want it real clearly understood.
Yeah.
I do say I a lot, but I always made it in the context that I was part of a good team.
That's right.
I could never have done hardly any of it by myself or with a board that was fighting me. Always, it took a team. And my God, Mr. Spaid, what we got accomplished, it was just unbelievable.
Right.
You know, they helped, the supervisors helped from the end of Hoop Up Street, where you're, the intersection, Karen Wolfeld and Nancy Braniff.
Right.
They helped with their machines and their time, and they brought the shell even, but we paid for it, but they brought it with their trucks. And they were just remarkable. They clean out to the end, did everything that was asked of them, and there was nothing really in writing. It was just they did it because those are Vicarious Township residents.
Right.
And they wanted good water and, most importantly, fire protection. So they gave their time and their equipment to make sure that it was done. But they also endorsed the CDBG grant for $25,000 because of the facts I just said. And there was enough people out there that we got the money to pay for the pipe and the shell and a lot of our labor and the testing at the end that is required before you put it online. We got a lot of that money back because of the intercommunal cooperation. And why people are fighting not to do this is just beyond me. I just can't even imagine it. You know, here's a simple fact that it's like walk up and slap them in the face with it. It's, look, when they put this online, there weren't enough Urvona customers to pay for what was required to run it. They had to extend to Vicarious Township, who, to this day is still 68% of the system. Back then, they did it for the same reasons those supervisors as the recent ones I worked with at Hoop Up. And for the loop from Lucas Curve, Lucas Plumbing and Heating, we did the loop at the St. Basil, so the system was a loop. They helped with same thing, equipment and time. Why? Because it helped get Regal Mart in. They'd got a fire hydrant there at the corner for Lucas Supply, Marty Redbaum, and all those people. Because it was the right thing to do, and it was good for the system to have a loop. So they gave up their time. And, that stuff got done because we worked together. It's just ridiculous that people can think that Urvona did this all by themselves and were able to stand by themselves. All they got to do is look at the stupid numbers. Numbers don't lie. People do. Mm-hmm. I get so upset. My quote tonight, you grew up with coal heat. You don't wait till the coal bin's empty to order coal. Yeah,
that was a good one.
Well, why do we this well 2 months later and it's still not online? And it's going to be hard on the filters. Well, you fool, if you'd have read and I told him that. I said, if you'd have read before you signed your contract, if you read the permits to know what you're supposed to do, you'd have seen you're only allowed max 100,000 out of the reservoir and 43,000 released, and that 100,000 is all based on if you got enough coming in the back. Oh, I said, I know, I got it right into my phone, and I reviewed it with the DEP guy already. You're not doing what you're supposed to. Had you read that, you'd have realized I need number 2 online, and we need the mix. That way it's not as hard on the filters. 50% use from the reservoir, 50% from the well, we wouldn't have depleted the reservoirs badly. I mean, where's the common sense here? Where's the protocol for backup and safety for the system so that we don't have water buffaloes? And that they're not thinking that far ahead is scary. There's 5 mile of what, 60-some-year-old water line transite from the reservoir to the plant?
And they didn't include that in this reclamation.
No, that's going to have to be in the near future, but if we get the 2 Hamilton wells online, it'll be a moot point, because they'll knock the reservoir out. I want it always as a supplement and a mixer. I'll be adamant to my death on that. I think even if you use 25% of your daily use from the reservoir, say we're at 60,000, we'll use 20%. Doesn't matter. I mean, pick a low number so you're keeping the reservoir healthy and the stream healthy, and you're diluting the water from the well. It's a win-win.
Now you've said it several times that the water that is must pass through to the streams.
The stream has priority, Mr. Spaid. If we can't meet stream release customers, too bad. That's fact. That's on the permit. I mean, not that wording. It says the stream has priority. If minimum release cannot be met, the authority must discontinue use immediately. I mean, it's so close to that verbatim, but I mean, it's that strict. Stream has priority.
Tonight they talked about a safety issue, a acidic device to be put in the line. What do you think about that? pH is a pH monitor.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about where he's talking about putting it. If it's to monitor what's coming in, I'm sure it is, the raw water. But it's all good. I don't mean to say negative. That my negative is to rely on electronics. There has to be periodic spot checks with a manual tester, the old-fashioned pillow packet way, or you drop your little tube in and it tells you, or there's so many ways, testers, but they're reliable because we've had enough time to figure it out, and they're simple. But for man just to look at a gauge and rely on it 100% when everything depends on it, because if your pH dictates what you feed chemically, because pH and chemicals are effective. They react to each other. So you need to know what your pH is coming in, and you need a consistent pH coming in. If you have one that goes up and down, like if you go well for a while and then the reservoir for a while, you're going to have problems. You always have to adjust. If you mix and you have a known pH coming in, you can always mix properly. But I don't like relying on technology. I don't. I like physical backups. Like, you go yourself and read that meter. Don't. If you got it coming to your phone, don't rely on that. Every once in a while, give it a check. I mean, that phone's just for you to look at and say, real quick, well, okay, numbers this morning, numbers now, yeah, we're doing good. It's not to rely on and do your report on. You got to do the walkthrough. It's the hands-on, seeing a little leak here and there, or the gauge is down just a bit, or the things that you're supposed to be looking for. And if you don't do the hands-on physical, you're liable to miss it. That's what happened up in Wisconsin, for God's sakes. Complacency. And lots got sick and many died. We can't have complacency in water. There's no place for it. You have to be diligent and you have to care. And if you don't, you're in the wrong business.